Hi, I'm Mark Geary, and I am the arbiter of all that is humorous. You're listening to You Think That's Funny, a podcast where we talk to people about what they think is funny. You can interpret the You Think That's Funny as an accusation or a question, depending on the aggressiveness of your personal nature. If you want to catch up on what we're going to be discussing in this podcast, go to youthinkthat'sfunnypodcast.com to check out the links to things we may be talking about. That's your pre-work. On this week's show, we have Emily Dorezas. Emily is a producer and writer living in LA. She is unofficially the David O. Selznick of improvised musical parody, with multiple international productions running, parodying things in an amusing musical way. Hello, Emily.
Hi, Geary. That's the best. David O. Selznick. I'm
Yes,
ruthless.
you are. You got the hunchback head. Disclosure, Emily is probably one of my longest term friends in comedy. She is a confidant and she is an unofficial coach of me in my illustrious comedy career. So
Oh
that's
my God.
Emily for
Can you
you.
imagine if that was all true? I mean, that's wild.
Truth in comedy, Emily. Truth in comedy. You probably taught me that, right? So, so, anything to say before we get her done? Oh, I gotta
Well, I'm
stop
very
saying that.
excited to be on here. And Mark is all of our unofficial father of comedy. So even if you had like a good dad growing up, you have to go through Mark Geary so you can still have all the issues.
My favorite description of me ever, which was by David Angelo, and he called me the Alfred to Chicago comedy's Batman. I'm not sure if that
That's
was like a
perfect.
yeah.
No, that's good. But
Anyway,
Alfred with an edge,
yeah. I'm I'm
harder
I'm
edge.
more of the Michael Caine Alfred than the dude with the tash. Anywho, oh man, we're eating up valuable minutes here.
Oh,
Let's
come
get
on, get
into
into
it.
it.
So you can actually talk about the first one. It's Three's Company, and I'll let you set the scene.
Okay, I'm going to set the scene by saying that this is one of those things that, like, when I was growing up, you couldn't watch a lot of things multiple times. So when you saw it once, it was like amazing. Anything like a book or a record you could listen to a million times. I'm 1,000 years old, by the way. So
You told me you were
reruns.
29 still. I
I am
thought,
29 and a half, Gary, please. I have a
okay.
birthday coming up in a few years. Um, every time in the afternoons, Three's Company would come on as a rerun. So I'm not like that old that I'd watch it first run, but I'd watch reruns of it all the time. And there was a rerun of Three's Company that I loved, and every time I would cry laughing. And I don't quite remember the whole setup. Something wacky happened. I'm going to say that something wacky. And it put us in a situation where Chrissy and Jack are in the kitchen, and Jack has to mock Chrissy, and he like goes cross-eyed, and he's like, "Gotta go bathroom," and uh, I don't really remember much else, but I just remember crying, laughing, and just wishing I could watch it like 1,000 times. And so every time I would be aware that that episode was coming on, it was like Christmas morning for me. So it does not hold up at all,
Yeah.
but as a 6 or 7 year old man, it didn't get better than a cross-eyed Jack Tripper making fun of Chrissy Snow.
Do you still have other like I'm kind of on board with this one because I have things there was a famous comedian in England called Rick Mayall. Drop Dead Fred is the only sort of American thing he was really known for. And I remember another comedian saying Rick could just make you laugh just with his face in like 2 seconds. And there's Rick Mayall expressions that I can remember the exact point in a TV series when he did it, and he may have said something as well, but it was like, oh my god, this is a human being that understands comedy. And like knowing you and kind of how you pull up like the most obtuse, weird things is like, yeah, I remember that as funny. So like, is that something that's a mark of your consuming of humor, that you remember like those tiny little
Maybe.
minutiae in the middle of things?
I do love minutia, and I do love just like when, so like there's a scene in there's a movie called The Game, and James Rebhorn, the great rest in peace character actor, is in it. And if you just kind of look in the background at him having to dance in the background of this one scene, I must have watched that 100 times. I
Yeah.
love the minutia of either um, watching someone make a choice like that in a scene, or on stage doing stand up, um, or just like thinking also of what is that person even thinking right now, or one of my favorite SNL sketches of all time, where it's all about the minutia and just also thinking of like what the hell happened backstage that day, is Riding My Donkey political talk show. um, it's an old Adam McKay sketch, and he made them all ride donkeys and talk about politics, but the
Mm.
donkeys aren't participating, and it's chaos on stage. And you just think, oh my God, but all day they've been dealing with donkeys backstage at SNL. And it's just because Adam McKay probably wanted donkeys.
There were live
And
donkeys.
oh my God, it's one of the best. It's yeah, live donkeys. It's Will Ferrell, Tim Meadows, Anna Gastower, uh, and there's somebody else in that sketch too. And there's arrows flying. There's them all trying to maintain balance on these donkeys. I think Daryl Hammond,
Yeah.
and nothing goes right. I love a setup where everything's very intentional and nothing goes
I wonder
right.
how they sneak that past the producers, though. Like live donkey, you would think they would just go, "Nope, that is not happening."
I think at that point, Adam McKay was probably like such like the hot shit machine on
Yeah,
SNL, and they were probably like, yeah, fine. I'm sure there was a lot of ask for forgiveness later on
yeah,
that, but I always watch that. It cracks me up, you know. Um, but so I do I like subtlety, and I also like thinking of what the hell happened to get
yeah.
to this point.
Yeah, there was a chat show. England never really went in for the whole late night chat show thing, and but one time this insane comedian called Roland Rivron came up with a concept where he would interview people floating in the middle of the Thames. So like, but then they put like, so there's him in a life jacket and the guests in a life jacket, and then there's like potted plants floating in like little rubber rings, and there's a floating desk. And they didn't, someone just said, yeah, screw it, let's do it. And the first episode they taped, they got arrested by the Thames Water Police in the
Of
middle of the
course.
episode for like just doing this insane thing. And I was like, you know, there should be stuff like that. And I always remember Roland Rivron again. He did this show with this other, and they did it like they did it in an old school theatre. So they said, "Screw it, we're going to do it like a pantomime, which is a British tradition, you know." And they did a thing. They did this joke where Roland Rivron was going to come up through the floor, you know, like you do in theatres, right? In like you can come up through the floor, and it's the
Yeah.
genie or whatever. So they did this. The skit was that he was going to come up through the floor, and then he got stuck. So he had to sit. Like the whole show was taped with him halfway out of the floor. Like a wig and a dress, and but they clearly didn't tell the guests that he was going to be there. And Harry Dean Stanton, who's like, you know, the super cool old man of as an
Yeah.
American actor, and he's cool and everything, comes out, and they hadn't told him that he would be being interviewed with a man sticking halfway out of the floor 3 feet in front of him. So he just walks on and looks at Roland Rivron sticking out of the floor, and you heard him go under his breath, "What the fuck?" And then he sits down, and the whole time he's scowling at the host of the program, Jonathan Ross, like this thing. Like, I love stuff like that. Like, that's what TV should be like.
I mean, everybody like Tom Green used to get a lot of flack, but I loved that show when it came. I mean, that show when it
Yeah.
first came out was like the greatest thing I'd ever seen
Yeah.
because it was just kind of fucking with everyone. And
Yeah.
I think that's why that part of me, and probably the same with you, that like kind of loves a little bit of the jokes on the audience
Yeah.
and or jokes on you kind of thing. I mean, it sucks when you're the guy coming out to interview someone that's half out of the floor and you don't know that's going to happen.
Yeah.
But I just love that.
Yeah.
I don't have the balls to do it. I always respect people that do have the balls to like go through it because I just start laughing. But
Yeah.
like, like Jason Fever used to make some wild choices back in the day, and
Yeah.
Bill O'Donnell and stuff. And those people were the people I first really thought were awesome as live performers when I moved to Chicago.
Yeah.
So like Bill would totally just go on stage and have a whole talk about his daughter that died that day and at Zanies.
Yeah,
For the
it was
Zanies crowd.
sometimes. I wish I got all this on. Maybe I'll try and dig some clips out of old Logie stuff.
Oh yeah,
Um,
yeah.
um,
And
I always we haven't got time to go into some of that stuff. But we will do a follow-up episode or something.
okay.
We'll do it because we're gonna get onto your next one because it's a subject I'm really excited to talk about.
Oh, okay.
Prank calls.
All day, every day.
Give me your prank call background here, because you mentioned some specifics in the email.
Well, initially, like everybody, I was fully indoctrinated into the prank call fan club with the Jerky Boys 1,000 years ago.
Oh yeah! Oh my God!
But
So good.
which, like, I feel like we all memorized every call, and like that just became part of our vernacular. But all day is Howard Stern, the best in the business for prank calls. His Richard and Sal, who have written for the Howard Stern Show forever. I listened to Stern. I've listened since like the 90s. And the show has evolved and evolved with them. And so have the prank calls. And you think like you can't, what else can you do? And every single time they probably do about a show that pre-recorded that they've done. And every time it's just, you can't believe what they were able to pull off.
To me, like I call it my dirty little comedy secret, because everyone knows I'm a snob about comedy. But prank calls, man, they're the only time I have tears in my eyes laughing. I mean, did you do prank calls when you were a kid?
Yes. I used to collect, I used to sit and collect 800 numbers. I had a little notebook and I would sit and watch TV and just write down all the 800 numbers that I had. And then I wasn't allowed to use the phone when my parents weren't home. So when my parents left, I would get on the phone and I'd call all these 800 numbers and I would like just try different things. Like I'd call one, like I remember Time Life Books, I would call and I kept asking, well, why can't I get these for records? Why can't these come in records? And they're like, well, we don't make records anymore. And they could tell they were talking to a kid, but there was no, I remember having the idea of like, I'm going to call these people and ask for something I know they can't provide, but I'm going to try to keep them on the phone as long as I can. So I'm going to just keep saying my mom's on her way in the room and this is what she wants. And I didn't even know, I thought it was like entertaining, but I didn't think it was hilarious until like much later on. I think it was kind of demented at first or something.
Well, as a kid, I think like you're not really funny if you didn't do prank calls as a kid, to be honest. Like, like we found a friend of mine had a record player, and we found that This is okay. This is obscure. So when Benny Hill was on, if Benny picked the phone up, you heard a voice on the other end of the line going, blah, 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 and it was like this babbling noise,
Uh-huh.
and it sounded like someone talking really fast. We found that if we play this kid's record he had at 45 instead of 33, it was the exact Benny Hill number. So we had to drag the record player into the kitchen where the phone was, set the record player up, and we would call random numbers and play the Benny Hill like blah, 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 down the and then slam the phone down and run out laughing, obviously. But then one day, of course, inevitably his mom came back from shopping early and she's just looking, okay, why is the record player dragged out of the living room and sat next to the phone?
Why did you guys all pee yourself
Oh yeah,
from
yeah.
laughing?
Oh man, I love prank calls so much. And
I
that's
mean,
so
also like just the adrenaline hit from doing
yeah.
them is like sky jumping or something.
It's true to me. It's true improv. Like it is true improv to do a
Yeah.
good prank call,
And
right?
if you're doing something like what you did, where you have to have like audio drops,
Yeah,
it's like very mentally
yeah,
like you have to, your reflexes have to be really
yeah,
spot on. Like
yeah.
everything has to happen live.
Did you used to? I'm sure you thought the E-bound boards were great when they came
Oh,
out.
yeah,
The
yeah.
Die Hard
E-Bombs World.
one and the Goodfellas one and
Oh my God, the Schwarzenegger calls.
yeah, yeah.
How are you? Yeah. I'd like to talk to you about some insurance. Yeah. Let me speak to
The
your mother.
best. The best. Oh boy. All right. Actually, you know what? I don't want to keep. I sent you links. I'll post them on the website. There was a guy out of Ohio somewhere. Kathy. He set up these called Kathy McGinty, and he was basically trolling for. This sounds bad. He was trolling for sex predators with line, but then he had a girlfriend of his record all these like lines, and he would hit the key. You know, it was a standard sort of message board type
Yeah, yeah,
thing,
yeah.
but
But I'm saying like
yeah,
I have so much respect for that
yeah,
because
yeah,
to put those boards together and to hit
yeah,
the drops right
yeah,
and to know to anticipate what they could say and have an answer for it on that board,
yeah. It's
that's like
it's the
professional.
yep. It's true, and people look down on it, which is people, I call it my dirty secret because everyone's like prank calls. What are you, 12 years old? I'm like, no,
Yes.
they they'll
Yes,
never
I
not
am.
be funny. Yeah. Well, emotionally, yes.
Yeah.
12 years old still. Oh dear. But maybe we'll come back to it. I gotta keep us on track here though. So this one is I'll describe it. So you say listening to someone slipping and trying to not fall in the shower. So let's make it broader than that. There's a whole sort of Schadenfreude human folly thing going on that virtually every guest brings up. So
Okay.
tell me about what's going on in what do you find that you can laugh at where like this is, I shouldn't be.
I think the moment that it becomes funny to me is the second that someone thinks that they have gained composure and
Yeah.
they haven't. It's going to be worse than they ever thought it was.
Yeah.
So like that's why, for example, slipping in the shower, you hear it in real time. You don't even have to see it. You hear this, you hear it begin, and you hear like some friction happening, but then in the end, physics just wins, and it's like slip, bangs, things are falling, and it was supposed to be like a really nice time for them, like a nice hot shower. That's like probably they're gonna have bruises and and something's chipped and something probably broke. It's just awesome. It's the best thing to hear if you, especially like if it's one of those like kind of like any like a not a tile shower, when it's like one of those that has a little hollow to it and it
Yeah.
really echoes. Oh man, that's the
Polyurethane.
best.
Yeah, I once bought that. One apartment I rented, I had one of those, like the shower curtain where the bath is like an old iron thing, and it sits in the middle of the room, and
Yeah,
it has a big ring around the top of it, kind
yeah,
of like old
yeah.
school. I
Like
once
the
bought,
Halloween costume
yeah,
everybody used to wear. Yeah.
yeah, the from Karate Kid.
Yes.
Karate Kid Halloween costume. That everyone knows what you mean when you say it's the Karate Kid.
Yeah. Karate Kid
Um,
Halloween
I
costume.
once
Skeletons,
bought
no, shower.
I once bought one of them down on myself slipping in the shower, like the whole Geary thing. The
I mean, that's
curtain and
just it.
everything.
Hearing that curtain rod crack and everything. Oh my God. I would have paid to hear that.
You wouldn't have paid to hear what was said afterwards. Um, but it was, yeah. So, I mean, what about other stuff? Like for me, because I used to race motorcycles, there's a weird thing where, like, the people that find really painful looking motorcycle crashes the funniest are motorcycle racers. Like, I've literally known people who died racing motorcycles, but if I open my inbox, I'm bound to have, like, check this one out, and there's a guy just getting nailed through the fence. And so is there any other thing, like, that you would say as a human folly sticks out for you? Is like, no, I laugh at that because I know what's involved.
I things like that, I have a hard time, like hard, even ball punching. I don't have balls, but somehow I feel it, and I'm like, oh, like I feel it, like it makes me uncomfortable in terms of a tension or anxiety.
Yeah,
But I do love watching a small toddler fall flat on their face
yeah,
or fall back hard or um, just can't get it together, but knowing they're going to recover. I'm not saying it would just basically like small children trying to figure out like balance,
yeah,
and then like totally falling. But I have a hard time with adult injuries, and I
yeah,
know that as a genre that like America's Funniest Home Videos has really told me I should love. But I get a little, I will say America's Funniest Home Videos, I think I know that they all live, so I'm fine with that.
yeah,
But like anything else, I'm like, oh God, oh God, oh God, oh God. Like that's how
yeah.
I can't like even movies that like that are injury prone, I have a hard time watching. That's
Huh.
another thing. I fucking love America's Funniest Home Videos.
Well,
All
talking
the
of
things they say not to watch, I'll watch.
talking
Tom
of
Green,
your
America's Funniest.
talking of your hatred of the young, let's go to the last piece, which is giving toddlers seltzer water instead of real water. Like, what? That's a bit too specific. Do you have one particular child that you like to do this with, or
Well, I was a nanny
yeah?
a long time ago, and actually, I think I was babysitting,
Hmm.
and I had seltzer, and this was like a 8-month old, and he took it thinking it was my water, and I cried laughing because it was like nothing this kid had ever even. I mean, he had no idea what was hitting him, and he was like just, but he couldn't orate it either. So it was all over like his expressions.
Yeah.
Do it. I encourage everyone to give a 7-month-old seltzer. They're not
Oh
going to
boy.
die, and it's like the best visual you'll ever get. I mean, you'll just. I don't have children. I just want to put that out there. So don't worry. Uh, but I've done it to like my niece and nephew. I may have done it to your children at some point in the world, listener. It's my favorite pastime with young babies.
You've probably seen you've seen that YouTube clip of the kid eating the cocoa powder, right?
Oh God, yeah.
And
Yes.
the little puffs of like brown smoke coming out like a
Yes.
extinguished dragon. Yeah, we'll put that link on. I feel like the world is now opened up to not just parents enjoying their children
Yeah.
doing
I
wacko things.
I think I mean, when I say I like America's Funniest Home Videos, what I like are the kid videos, like the little kid videos. Like
Yeah.
I mean, they really do say the darndest things, Geary. But that is also like, I love that. I like kids are so funny to me,
Okay. That
especially when they swear. But I mean, everybody likes that.
so that's why you and I still like prank phone calls and weird minutia. We
Right.
are eternally arrested in our development. All right then. So
Exactly.
let's do this then. We've talked about what you find funny, so let's talk about how do you bring that to the game, as it were? You're quite frankly the powerhouse in improvised musical parody in America at this time,
Oh, right.
international. How do you
Right.
bring that to your game? How do you the things you liked? How do they manifest?
Well, I think there's so there's the improvised musical stuff, and then there's the scripted stuff, the scripted musical stuff. And the scripted musical stuff is, you know, parody. So it's parody of, the Game of Thrones
Yeah.
or 50 Shades of Grey. So these are things that you kind of have to pick up on the minutia because they have a huge fan base. So everybody has also picked up on the minutia of something. And the
Right.
second that you call it out on stage, I mean, it's funny because we've all seen the little subtle details. That's what everybody wants to see because they've seen it too. And I mean, that's meme culture. That's what everybody has seen it, and they think no, they notice the detail and they want to know that you saw that detail too. And so I think, especially in the scripted stuff, it's really helpful to have an eye for the subtlety because it just makes it ring more true to the audience that you're
Mm.
calling out the subtlety. And in the improvised musical stuff, I'm not an improviser, but I do think for Baby Wants Candy and other improvised musicals, like we'd also do a show called Shamilton, which is an improvised version of Hamilton, where it could be any celebrity or person of history, and they improvise a musical about them.
Mm.
And again, it's like I think casting wise, we always go with people that they just have to be quick with nuance and picking up on details because the audience is always picking up on it, and whether they know that that's what's funny or not, they love little bits being done on the side, or they love the just I don't know. I think everybody does. I think
Mm.
everybody likes minutia and nuance. They just might not know it. I mean, everybody likes a kick to the balls too. There's nothing quiet about that. But if somebody's just doing a little, I mean, the devil's in the details. That's why we
Yeah.
say that, I guess.
Oh, okay. Hadn't thought it was going that way. Wow. Check out Miss Fancy Trousers with her nuances. Um, well, offline you can again go to youthinkthat'sfunnypodcast.com for the links. I feel like it was like ducks in a barrel trying to give you stuff that I thought Emily Dorezas would like. So I'd sent you a link. Let's bring up the elephant in the room, the Bruce in the building, as it were. You are of course
Bruce Hornsby?
Yes, and his range and his impressive range. I wish someone never did that joke where it was like Bruce Hornsby in the range and there was like an oven on stage with him. But anyway, I digress on that. So Bruce Springsteen, Loose Windscreen. I sent you a couple of links. One of my favorite sketches ever is Fry and Laurie, and he's doing the America song when he just keeps singing America over and over. I bet, has that ever been presented to you before?
I have seen it. I think you sent it to me.
Yeah, I said that's how I introduced myself. Now I just carry it on my phone and go, "Do you like this sketch? Good, we can get on."
But the thing is, like that when I watched it, like when you sent it again, I watched it. I was like, this is basically a MAGA song. Like that, I could see some MAGA person releasing that as a song.
And then there was one. I was doing a Bruce search, and I'd never seen the Ben Stiller stuff. I mean, in Bruce Dumb, is that fondly looked upon, or are people mad about it? Because I once remember posting a Bruce comment on your Facebook wall, and a very irate middle-aged lady told me what she thought about my Bruce Springsteen joke.
Well, I think when Ben Stiller does it, it's fun, and then everything else people get really offended by.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I forget what you said, but I'm sure it was a subtle dig, which no one has time for in the Springsteen community.
Oh boy. I think it was something, his motorcycle had broken down and he didn't know how to get it going again. And I made some comment about it, and this lady was not happy about my comment about Bruce's motorcycle acumen.
Well, I mean, look, maybe you could make the comment now because he's been taken down a peg or two. But I forget. I was more offended by the Jeep commercial than I was the DWI. And I forgive him of all sins because I've been an idiot in front of him as an audience member many times. We all have. And he looks the other way and I'll look the other way.
Okay. That's that give and take of a relationship, right?
Yeah. That's how we make this work. That's how Bruce and I make this work.
All right. Well, let's end on a negative. I always like to end things on a negative.
Perfect. And you like to start on a negative too, which I love.
What is the one thing that everyone else finds hilarious? Well, not everyone, that would be impossible, but a vast majority find hilarious, and you're just scratching your head going, what?
Well, this is kind of a very current thing that drives me insane, is that everybody uses the same setup for their posts online to be funny. And it's like, they'll be like, current situation, or I did a thing. Yeah. And it's all the same. Everybody's using, there's like 8 phrases like that everyone uses to set up their funny post.
I was today years old. Ugh.
Yeah. And it gets a lot of laughs, a lot of LOLs. And I immediately hate it. I don't even read after that. I'm like, what are you, use your own words. What is happening?
So social media hackery, you have no time for it.
I don't have time, Geary.
Well, talking of not having time, we're about at the end of our time, as they say in TV. And I wanted to talk before we leave. So you have basically anyone who does a podcast is just sort of daisy chaining around to all the other podcasts.
Yeah.
So I didn't know about this one. Tell us about your podcast before we wrap up.
Well, it's a recorded occasionally. That's our genre. But we are it's myself, Jessica Joy, Mary Sohn, all 3 originally Chicago residents, and now have moved out here. But we all 3 of us love the Bravo Housewives and Bravo Kingdom. And so we have the Real Housewives Kiki show, and we just kind of do a breakdown of recent episodes and an analysis of the Housewives. And it's like my secret guilty pleasure. I just love Real Housewives.
Man, you're a trove of secret guilty pleasures, Emily
Oh,
Dorezas.
girl, don't get me started. I
What?
love my Housewives. I love my
Why is it?
Springsteen. I love my Howard Stern.
Why is it what's a Kiki show? Because like when I hear Kiki, I think Kiki D, the singer from the
Well,
70s.
Well, you clearly don't watch Real Housewives of Atlanta because
No.
Phaedra Parks always says, let's have a Kiki. Well, she used to. She's not on the show now. But, you know, her and Portia freaking frack and Nene Leakes, they would have like a Kiki, which was just like a hang and talk.
Oh, right. Okay. That one confused me. I was like, it sounded like some sort of Hawaiian thing. Like, okay.
No,
Okay.
the Real Housewives Kiki show. We're just gonna have a Kiki, a fellowship, a gathering.
So people can find that presumably on the eponymous iTunes and stuff, published once every 6 weeks, and then 3 weeks, and then 2 weeks, and then 8 weeks. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, like whatever, like what we ask our listeners to listen, really enjoy it, and then when they review it, to tell us how pissed they are that we never do it. Okay. That's kind of what happens. But that's also flattering because it's like, oh my God, they want us to do this again. And then we're like, well, maybe we'll do one again. And then we do 8 weeks later.
It's the affirmation that you're really after, isn't it? Not the art.
All the time.
All the time.
All the time.
All
was
right.
it good, Geary? Was this good? Was this good?
Yes. This was the best one, Emily. This was the best one we've done.
Oh, thank you.
All right. So, Emily Dorezas.
Thanks for having me. It was awesome.
Thanks for being had. This is You Think That's Funny podcast. Again, you can go to youthinkthat'sfunnypodcast.com to check out what the hell we was talking about today. And this is our outro. Cue the jangly music. Ding, ding, ding. Bye.